Do spend time listening and learning and turn on your curiosity. I mean, that's your biggest asset, especially in the beginning. Also, do talk to customers as much as you talk to internal staff. Don't spend your time just getting all your information from the company perspective.
Hello, my customer success friends. Irit Eizips here for CSM Practice, the customer success strategy consulting firm. Today, I have Irene Lefton, a customer success executive and an evangelist who is passionate about startups and setting up the customer success function in early stage startups. And she's must have built the customer success function from scratch at startups for about 5 different times. So she's quite the expert in doing this process. And it's my distinct pleasure to have her on our channel today to share best practices and the framework so that you can try it out yourself. Before we start, I'd like to remind everyone, subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the great videos that we produce on customer success. Hi, Irene. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Irit. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So to our topic, for those that are listening to this video and are about to embark in being the first VP of customer success at a startup or a small company. When we say small, we're talking about what kind of range? Because everybody's idea of a small startup is different.
Under 5 million.
So resources are not as abundantly available as maybe someone from an enterprise, larger company or a more mature company. So what does a 90-day plan looks like for you when you go in and you start a role in a seed company, like a really small startup?
You know, it's very different, but when you join a company, your first 90 days are the critical part to getting started on the right foundation. And to me, there's kind of 2 things. There's a 90-day plan for you, how you're going to get started. And that's a lot of what I'm going to focus on, because that's going to set you on the right track to build kind of the longer term plan for the company. Because you have your first quarter, you kind of have, if you will, kind of a honeymoon period where you can learn and get things done. So that plan gives you your roadmap for what you're going to do. And it also shows your management what to expect. And it can and will be different things depending on the company. So as you know, I mostly work in early stage, and the first thing you're going to want to do is know how you're going to spend your time. And a big part of that is going to be building relationships, collecting data and information, and getting everything you need to set the proper longer term strategy for the year and the next year. And depending on the company, you also might need to be evangelizing customer success and educating people, because they may not even know what the function is and how you're going to go about it. So if you're joining a little bit later stage company and there's already a plan for CS, even in a startup, you know, maybe you're the second time coming in, or maybe they didn't have it, but they're already 5 years in and they're kind of doing something. Then in that case, your 90-day plan will be pretty different. And it's going to depend on why they're deciding to add a customer success leader at that time. So if they're doing well, you might be coming in to grow and scale things. Or if they have problems or challenges or churn, you might have some retrenching to do, and you might need to spend your first 90 days kind of assessing what to revamp and what changes you're going to make and how to adjust things. So all of this requires you building a plan. But no matter what, a key part of your first 90 days is going to be building relationships and gathering data, and it all starts with listening.
Well, I really love how you broke it down to 2 different aspects. One is like, what do you need to do for your 90 days to really establish your executive relationship and trusted advisor internally within the company, as well as with customers. And then the second part is, how would you describe it best?
Yeah, assessing the status of where things are, you know, what's working, what's not working, and, you know, building the plan, because your first 90 days, so it's great, have a 90-day plan. Oops, I'm at the end of the 90 days. Now what do I do? So kind of a continuous thing. Your 90-day plan has to get you to the next plan.
I appreciate your actually distincting between 2 potential situations. One, you're coming in the executive team kind of knows that they need customer success, but their perception might be completely different than yours, and you have to do this re-education. And I think that that's applicable to a lot of different people that are hired as a first executive, whether it's a startup or not. And then there's the challenges that are very typical for a small startup. So how about we double click on how do you, if you run into this really hard situation where you need to create your plan, but you also need to educate the executive team, what would you recommend doing?
Well, you have to prioritize your time. That's the main thing. So whenever you start a new role, you want your own roadmap, or what'll happen is you'll get sucked in, especially in an early stage startup. There's so much going on. Everybody's wearing multiple hats and running a million miles an hour. So you have to have the roadmap and you have to prioritize your time. And again, it's different for every company and situation, even in the small ones. But it's really important that you have some framework in mind for what you're going to do. So if you don't do that, if you jump into a role without a plan, you're definitely going to end up in reactive mode. And you're going to spend your time firefighting. And once you get entrenched there, it's really hard to pull out and do the strategy work. We've all been there, right? Even in business, it's really hard to carve out the time to do your thinking, to do the strategy work. And it's even more hard when you're first coming into a brand new role. So it takes an investment of time, and you might just feel like you're running behind because you're not getting stuff done. But it's really important, and you have to spend some time on addressing fires and being in reactive mode. There's no question about that. But when you come into the role and you've created your own 90-day plan, you know you're going to spend half your time or 3/4 of your time on a customer tour, on listening, on whatever it is you decide you're going to do, and the rest on reactive time. Then you can set that expectation. Because the other thing that's really important in building the plan, and you mentioned it, Irit, is you want to build credibility with your peers and your bosses. That's your management and the board. And whenever you can set an expectation and then meet that expectation, that builds trust in the relationship. And so when you set a 90-day plan, you promote it, you tell them what you're going to do, and then you execute on it, then you're going a long way towards building your relationships and your reputation internally to be able to actually be successful.
So if you look at your own experience, you've had 5 different times trying this out. What are you trying to accomplish in the end of 90 days? And how do you go about it? What is your formula? I know that everybody's going to be different, but do you have like some things that you absolutely include in the 90-day plan? And then how do you assess your success from your own point of view that, yeah, I did what I ended up wanting to accomplish that 90-day critical period?
Sure. So I think there are 5, I looked through all the plans I had, and I was not too surprised to find that they were pretty different from each other.
Wow.
So, but there were 5 things that are in common across all of them that you need to focus on. The tactical things are always very, very different. But the 5 things you have to focus on and you have to figure out your time is, number 1, listening and learning. This is the most time-consuming thing you have to do, and it's also the most important use of your time, especially at the beginning. And that means learning, about so many things. If you think about it, when you walk in the door, you don't know about the processes and the company. When are meetings? Where are things? How do I find out about this? Who's who? The org structure. And that's kind of both the formal and the informal, because there's always politics and everybody has different hats, especially in startups. The customer perspective on things. Who are the customers? Where are they in their life cycle with you? Are they happy? Are they not happy? The current situation with whatever is happening in customer success, support, onboarding, what's working, not working, if there's a team there, what do they like and not like? The financial snapshot, what are the numbers? What's the net recurring revenue? What's the churn rate? All of that. So that first thing is really, really, really important. And you've got to be able to dig in and listen and learn. And next, you need to build the relationships. both sides, with customers and internally. So you've got to start meeting customers and you've got to start building your relationships internally. And then the next thing that was common that I always did was documenting or updating the customer journey and looking at the gaps or the opportunities in the current journey. Not so much the desired of where do we want to be and what do we want to do, which you probably already have in your head. If you're a seasoned leader, you kind of know where you want it to go. But start with the current and document the current journey. This is where we are today. Do your baseline. And then fourth, you've got to do this education and evangelize. Even if they're bringing you in because they love customer success and they know about it and they know what they want to do, there's plenty of people that don't understand it. And when resources are tight, and they always are in startups, you've got to make sure that your asks that you're making of the company for resources, be they financial or systems or people, that everybody understands the value behind them. And that's your job as an evangelist. And then finally, at the end of your 90 days, you better be equipped to present to your management and the board kind of your long-term plan, at least what you're going to do next and next after that. And that's kind of that's the 5 common things that went across all of my onboardings.
That's awesome. So let's say you finish the 90-day plan. How do you think about taking all this information, all this, the interviews and the relationship that you've created, and kind of assess what should be the goals for the team at this point? Is it very similar from startup to startup in the way that you design the customer success goals and missions for the company you work for? Or is it you've ended up having completely different goals? And can you share a little bit of how you're thinking about it?
Sure. It has been different. I mean, there's some commonalities. Certainly one goal for the first 90 days is almost always the building of the relationships and the understanding of the customers and meeting customers. Those things are always there. And I hate to say it depends because it sounds like I'm avoiding the question, but I'm really not.
Well, maybe just give some examples. I think that would be really beneficial.
Sure. So think about what you want to accomplish in that 90-day period. So here's one example. I want to fully understand the current situation. So that's the team, the product, the customers, the processes. So that's one chunk of what I'm going to spend my time on in the first 90 days. And second, I want to build and establish key relationships that'll help me succeed. So that's going to be key customer relationships, key internal and board relationships potentially. And then thirdly, you want to set 1 or 2, probably not more, of small specific goals that you want to get accomplished. And you should hopefully have learned enough in the interview process and in the first couple of weeks to identify what these might be. It might be getting the initial customer journey mapped, or hiring 3 people if you're already going and you know you need that and they're on board and the budget's there. Or it could be building the long-term plan. So the different elements that you might have are going to vary so widely, but your job is to kind of understand what you need for the company and then put that into your 90-day plan. And you really need to have your 90-day plan done completely, what you expect to do in 90 days within your first 2 weeks of being on the job. So you've got a couple, you have information you're coming in with from the interview process and from everyone you've met before, but you've really got to work quickly and put a plan together that's going to cover those 90 days. And like I said, you don't want it to be more than 3 to 5 things. So if you're going to understand the current situation, that's a big ask. You got to learn the product, you got to meet the team, you got to understand the processes, meet customers, and you want to establish key relationships. That's another big ask because that takes time and working together. And then, and in doing that, you want to see how you can help others too within the company, especially other functions.
That's brilliant, by the way. Great sharing. I think a lot of people are going to take a lot of takeaways out of this. And so maybe in closing, are there any do's and don'ts that you'd like to share with the audience based on your experience?
Absolutely. I would say do spend time listening and learning and turn on your curiosity. I mean, that's your biggest asset, especially in the beginning. And the one question I would ask absolutely everyone is, what do I need to know that I'm not asking you about? Really important question. Also, do talk to customers as much as you talk to internal staff. Don't spend your time just getting all your information from the company perspective. You mentioned my book, it's Who Speaks for the Customer. It's all about outside in, and you've got to understand the customer perspective on there. And then build your relationships and address any low-hanging fruit. You know, there might be some things that you can do quickly that your team knows about. When you come in, if you inherit a team, they may already say, we think we can really make some big impact here, but nobody's ever let us do it before. Get it done in that first 90 days. That's all bonus time. What you don't want to do is spend too much time on customer issues. It's counterintuitive because your boss is going to think that's why they hired you. Exactly, to spend time on the customer issues that they have. And you will spend some time on them, but you can't spend all your time on them because then you'll just get entrenched in a reactionary mode. So you have to really limit it. Do not start talking about and implementing all the ideas that you have. Hold on to them, because you need to understand the situation better before you come in like a bull in a china shop and knock things over and change things. You know where you want to get to, but this is just simply a leadership kind of change management thing. You want others to kind of reach those conclusions themselves. So don't come in with all your ideas, hold on to those. And also don't assume that you have all the support that you need, because you have to build that support. In the interview process, they're going to tell you all the wonderful things they're going to do. And then reality does not always pan out like that. At least that's been my experience.
That's brilliant. Wow, what a session. Thank you so much, Irene. This was definitely eye-opening, and I think so many people are going to get so much out of this interaction and all your sharing and insights and wonderful experience. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check in the comments below for important links to related blogs and other sessions related to this topic. Thank you so much. It was an awesome session. I really appreciate your time and sharing these valuable insights with everyone.
Well, thanks for having me. It was really fun and happy to be here.
Awesome. All right, guys, I'll see you at the next video.